My formula for success with startup PR is called the three S's. And one of those S's is soliciting. Soliciting basically means reaching out to journalists, to reporters, to influencers, to publications to get them to run your story. And there are basically three key aspects to this. First is research. This is where you're finding out which publications you're going to solicit, who are the influencers you're going to approach, and who are the journalists that you're interested in working with. The other key aspect of research is figuring out what types of content they like. What structure do they like? So, for example, do they prefer anecdotes, personal stories, or do they prefer things like original research or perhaps more technical information like testing one product against another? The other thing to look at is what is the submission process? Larger publications are probably going to have a more formalized process to approach them with your story. Now, the second aspect of soliciting is what I call list building. This is where you're compiling or buying lists of people and publications that influence your target. So, for example, you might be particularly interested in getting in big publications, things like CNN and TechCrunch. But often the most profitable publications to be in might be ones you've never heard of, but are particularly popular among your target audience. And those smaller niche publications might actually be more hungry for content because it may be harder to get more detailed content stories or analyses, things like that. So make sure you do your research to make sure that you're not just intuitively guessing what the best publications and journalists are going to be, but you're actually finding out quantitatively. And one of the tools I'm going to talk about later, of course, is SparkToro. Now, the third aspect of soliciting is actually contacting and reaching out to these people and publications. You can do this through email. You can do it through direct mail if you want to be really aggressive. You can also do it through DM. So I've had success sending direct messages through things like Facebook and Instagram. You can phone publications and journalists. You can meet people in person at things like trade shows. You can ask for referrals. Maybe you have a mutual contact on LinkedIn or a mutual contact through a lawyer or some other professional, a consultant. I've had a lot of success also going to the admins of groups. So, for example, Facebook group admins are going to be thought leaders and people that are going to be great for publishing content. People who are running Reddit groups, people that are having conversations on Quora. And if all else fails, really what you can do is you can just go to the contact page on the publication website, the journalists, or the influencer website and submit the form right then and there. Now, one of the things I want to say about a lot of PR in the startup space is that it's basically outbound sales or outbound business development. And if you're not familiar with these terms, basically outbound sales is sending cold emails, doing cold calls, that type of thing, where you're reaching out to people. And usually, what you're doing in cases like that with outbound sales is you're trying to get people to buy your product. But in this case, what you're doing is you're really selling a story. You're not selling a product, you're selling a story. And they don't even need to pay for it. So you're selling a free story, but you're asking them to give up their resources in terms of publication and editing, etc., to run with your story. And that's going to take a lot of persuasion, a lot of convincing. Now, in the startup world, in general, with marketing, it's very easy to get excited about big, bold things, rebranding, making a grand website, running fancy advertising, etc. But often, when really you want to get some hard performance, you really want to get sales, one of the best approaches is outbound sales, just sending cold emails. It's not flashy, it's just text, it's just a conversation. That's really the closest you can come to getting a sale. Now, similarly with PR, it's easy to get excited about getting a PR agency, or we're going to do a huge PR stunt in Madison Square Avenue, or we're going to get the Times Square giant digital board, or we're going to do something grand and big. But really, what's going to get success initially is going to be that boring, unsexy thing of just writing a text email to a journalist, to a publication. And that's probably where you're going to be spending a lot of your time with startup PR.